A few of you know this about me already, but for those who don't, I come from the Halloween capital of the world. And just like my buddy Jack, one day too, I shall become the Pumpkin King. Roll the intro! I'm oftentimes thinking about the next big Disney e-ticket attraction to be slotted into any of the parks. As some of you have probably seen, I made a video all about the fun dark rides that could be implemented in Epcot, shameless plug, concerning some beloved animated classics. However, I wanted to push my thinking a bit further here and focus on a property not immediately associated with the Walt Disney Company, Sleepy Hollow, and by extension, the Headless Horseman. A brief bit of scene setting before I dive in. The roots of this particular story have been part of Disney's catalog for decades. Back in 1949, The Adventures of Ichabod and Mr. Toad released as combined adaptations of The Legend of Sleepy Hollow and The Wind in the Willows, respectively. While Mr. Toad received his very own dark ride in 1955 with the opening of Disneyland, the Headless Horseman was nowhere to be found. The inclusion of the lore is still found in the parks to this day, though. In Walt Disney World, Sleepy Hollow Refreshments offers you the chance to dine on fruit-laden waffles and funnel cakes. The horseman's visage acts as the mascot and can be seen on the signage. On a more overt note, in Disney California Adventure during the Halloween season, a statue of the Caped Spirit looms right across the street from the Carthay Circle restaurant. As night falls, his laugh and the clip-clop of his horse can be heard mesmerizing all that pass by. While I appreciate the inclusion of this story throughout the parks, I simply feel it's not enough. That is why I'm propositioning Disney to make an e-ticket dark ride called The Legend of Sleepy Hollow. As with all of my wishlist videos, I have an infinite budget with which to work with, and I can conjure up space where it might be impossible to create an attraction for the sake of making a, hopefully, entertaining video for you. Let's begin. My dream scenario would be to add this attraction to Walt Disney World's Magic Kingdom over in Liberty Square. As I peruse the Google map of the area, I see that I don't have a lot of room to work with. While I won't pretend to understand how Disney always seems to find room for new attractions, especially Disneyland, I will leave it to the capable hands of the Imagineers to make my dream a reality. I'm not proposing we bulldoze the ye olde Christmas shop or the Hall of Presidents, but there must be a way to get the space needed for this ride. This just seems like the perfect place to put it. As you enter the queue line for the attraction, you are transported back into the late 1700s. You are a traveler visiting the little town of Sleepy Hollow. Many have been drawn to this infamous location because of the spooky stories that have been spread across the region, and a town local has set up shop providing horse-drawn excursions throughout the city. When you arrive, however, it is on Old Hallows Eve. You walk through the quaint streets of the settlement at night. Windows are illuminated by candlelight, and a few homes are playing host to Halloween parties. Suspiciously, though, there are no citizens out and about, almost as if they are compelled to stay inside. You continue your walk and finally reach the shop providing the trips, Sleepy Hollow Carriage Tours. Sketches of monsters and handwritten stories line the walls as you pass into the back to find your carriage. For a bit of context, I envision this attraction to function very similarly to Dinosaur or Indiana Jones Adventure: Temple of the Forbidden Eye. The EMVs, or Enhanced Motion Vehicles, Disney has utilized throughout its parks since the mid-1990s are still one of the coolest ride vehicles to me. Styling it to look like a roofless carriage would be a challenge, admittedly. Also, like Rise of the Resistance, I would love to have some sort of animatronic driver up front. Perhaps that could be concealed, a bit like the drivers for Skull Island: Reign of Kong in Universal Studios' Islands of Adventure. On top of all of that, we need a pair of horses up front too. These are big asks, but again, this is a wish list. After boarding your carriage along with 11 of your closest friends, you're off to see Sleepy Hollow in all of its ominous glory. Our coachman, Cyrus, is an older fellow who is happy to go on and on about the history of the town. His stories would change on repeat visits as he waxes poetic about the strange goings-on of his beloved city. While most of the tours are held during the day, special adventures are given on Halloween night for an extra fee, of course. Cyrus starts to lead the horses, Chestnut and Buttercup, on a road out of town towards the forest. Normally doing such a thing for a local on this very night was considered taboo. However, The old coachman did charge all of us kind tourists a bit much for a memorable evening surrounding the legends of the land. As you enter the forest, Cyrus begins to regale everybody with the tale of Ichabod Crane, a schoolmaster who had come to town a few years back and had mysteriously vanished on this very night. While the man's hat was found by a bridge just up the way, its wearer was nowhere to be found. Strangely though, the hat was found next to a smashed pumpkin on the portion of the bridge leading into town. Legend has it that any that dare to enter the woods on Halloween night may be set upon by the Headless Horseman, a specter cloaked in black atop a fearsome horse. The goal of the Phantom is to replace his missing head with any he could, and by whatever means necessary. Cyrus continues by saying that in all of his years living in the town before setting up shop as a guide, he had never seen such a being. All of a sudden, some clip-clopping from a quartet of horseshoes can be heard in the distance. The old coachman goes quiet. He asks everyone else to remain still as well as he calls out to the stranger. No response. After what seems like an eternity of silence, an ethereal laugh echoes outward from the road just off to the right of the carriage. The red eyes of the stallion illuminate as the horseman comes into full view. The moonlight catches his shadowy form as he holds a saber above his head. He charges the carriage as Cyrus prompts his own horses to gallop in the opposite direction, further into the woods. The carriage whips from side to side as the fallen leaves and thick mud of autumn make for an uneasy path. Looking back, the horse and rider can be seen giving chase before fading back into the night. Cyrus calls back to the guests that the tour is over and that you would be quickly returning to Sleepy Hollow. He assures the group that you need not panic, as he knows these woods incredibly well, even in the dark. While it seems, for a moment, that you have evaded the arboreal assailant, it is not so. The horseman starts lunging at the carriage, swinging his saber wildly in hopes of finding a new head for his missing one. First from the left, and then from the right, his assault hears his weapon scrape across the sides of the carriage. A waterfall can be heard up ahead, and Cyrus suggests that we might lose this demon by maneuvering around it. The full moon illuminates a beautiful deluge of crystal clear water as Cyrus pulls the carriage underneath a rocky outcropping. Extinguishing the candle illuminating the inside of the covered driver's seat, Cyrus urges everyone to remain incredibly quiet. Moments later, the calculating hoof-falls of the Headless Horseman's horse can be heard, menacingly, purposefully, and harrowingly passing by on the other side of the curtain of water. A small trio of lights flicker to life and proceed to float by the left-hand side of the carriage. Obfuscated by the rushing torrent, the luminous visage moves down the road as the hooves of the horse herald a return to a strong gallop. Cyrus, with his shaky voice, pulls out from behind the waterfall and takes the road back toward town. He whispers to the group that they will have a fun story to tell tomorrow. At this, the dusty old coachman goads his pair of horses to fly back to town. Only a few seconds later, galloping and cackling can be heard from the right side of the carriage. The horseman is in hot pursuit, wielding not only his sword, but a flaming jack-o'-lantern as well. He takes off ahead and circles back on the company, from the right side, slicing as he does so. Cyrus avoids him yet again and calls out that the bridge ahead would provide them sanctuary. The laughter of the Night Rider can be heard again from behind as the bridge comes into sight. Cyrus calls forth to his noble steeds to gallop as if everyone's lives depend on it. The horseshoes of the carriage horses suddenly become unmuted as they tromp onto the wooden bridge. A ghostly roar can be heard as the Headless Horseman cries out in rage. The cart, full of tourists, skids to a halt perpendicular to the bridge's exit. The old coachman declares that they are indeed safe from that dastardly devil. However, at that moment, the Headless Horseman hurls his flaming jack-o'-lantern at the carriage from the other side of the bridge. It nearly strikes the passengers, but instead breaks across the brick walls of a nearby building. Cyrus takes that as his cue to quickly return to headquarters and delivers the passengers back to from whence they came. As it is a tourist-funded business, guests are then shown into a gift shop where merchandise based on the attraction can be found. Besides the fact that I think the legend of the Headless Horseman is just plain cool, I also think it would do a lot for Liberty Square. Many comparisons are drawn between it and New Orleans Square found in Disneyland. While New Orleans plays host to both the Haunted Mansion and Pirates of the Caribbean, Liberty Square has the Haunted Mansion and the Hall of Presidents as its primary draws. Adding a crazy, big-budget, thrilling attraction like this would put Liberty Square on the map in a huge way, while also giving the whole area a pseudo-Halloween vibe all year round. Thank you guys so much for watching today. It really means a lot to me. Please let me know down in the comments what you thought of this idea. Maybe some things that you liked, maybe what you didn't like, or maybe some ideas that you have. I really want to hear about that. That would mean a lot to me. Like I said a few minutes ago back in the video, I did make a video similar to this about the different intellectual properties they could put into Epcot. And also, I did make a really big video about the 5th theme park I think Disney should make down in Florida called Disney's Villainous Kingdom. All about the villains. You know, they're going to talk about making this expansion over at Magic Kingdom. It's not enough. The villains need their own park. You know, they're a big deal. That's just what I think anyway. Either way, I appreciate you being here today, and thank you so much to my patrons. You guys mean the world to me, and it means a lot that people are liking and commenting on the videos already, but the fact that people support me financially, it's just, I don't know what to say besides thank you. So thank you. I appreciate it. Until next time, just remember to adapt and overcome.